Allegedly, Warrior's supposed to then feud with Sid after WrestleMania, but of course, Sid's fired. So now Shango gets to move up. And instead, he's going to be feuding with the Warrior. And as you suggested, there's this famous moment where he puts a curse on the Warrior. He collapses off the ring apron to the floor. He's holding his stomach. And they show him on TV. He's vomiting backstage. There's a medic helping him. He actually throws up on Chief Jay Strongbow. Another time, he causes that black goo to drip out of the Ultimate Warrior's forehead during an interview.
That was Warrior's greatest promo.
That was some stupid shit, wasn't it, Bruce?
That was great shit.
Well, listen, it was fun. I'm not arguing that.
It was.
Do you think it would have been better had Hogan done it instead of Warrior, or would it have been the same?
I think that Hulk would have put it over the top, frankly. And by that, Hulk kind of could have done it with an over the top and a wink.
Yes.
While Warrior was, didn't let you in.
Right.
And so I would have loved to have seen Papa and Hogan.
Well, they tried some interesting stuff with Shango in this era. Like, he would, in squash matches, set his opponent's feet on fire or their boots on fire. He would put folks in body bags. I mean, they were trying some interesting stuff, were they not?
Yeah, and again, it was fun stuff that you could, kids were afraid of him. For real, little kids would look at him and be like just shaking and shit because they're afraid that Papa Shango is going to put a spell on them.
Right.
I go back to the James Bond movie, Live and Let Die.
Yes.
And it opens up with that voodoo scene and all that stuff. And then they later on do the chicken blood and the chicken blood and the chicken feet and all that stuff, man. That sticks in my head still today. It's just absolutely terrifying. Your dad was a young boy when that movie came out with Roger Moore and all that. And I remember watching it at the moving picture show at the theater. Alameda 4.
Is Papa Shango the character you wish you could have worked with the most? When you're on the outside looking in, that feels like the most Bruce character of all.
At that time? Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think during that time, yes, Papa Shango and then, possibly Flair doing the Bobby Heenan Jr. stuff. Yeah, I would have loved to work with Papa. Really,
really fun stuff here. Warrior and Papa Shango are the main event for one half of the house shows in the summer of 92. In this era, we're running two shows. The other main event is Savage and Flair, but they never really have a televised blow off of this feud. It's pretty much just quietly dropped as Warrior is then inserted into the title picture with Savage leading up to SummerSlam at Wembley. And eventually he's going to, of course, form the Ultimate Maniacs with Randy Savage after You Return.
Yeah.
Isn't that a little weird, though, that we never really got a payoff for Shango Warrior? It feels like we should have.
I'm not sure they had a whole lot of chemistry.
Well, it just feels like after we're vomiting, we got stuff coming out of our head. As
Maybe
a fan,
Warrior was afraid to face him. Straight up.
There's always that.
Yeah. You ever think of that? You didn't think of that, did you?
Shango is actually going to defeat El Matador at SummerSlam in Wembley.
Arriba!
It's not part of the pay-per-view broadcast. It's shown on primetime a few weeks later. When you come back to the company, are you chomping at the bit to work with Shango, or are you more like, thank God I got my job, let's not fuck this up?
All the above. To me, it was like the fun, cool shit. It kind of reaches a point too where what else can you do?
Yeah.
And you had to really study voodoo to try and come up with what that was going to be next.
Did you really study voodoo?
Well, if you have to, you have to.
How does one study voodoo, Bruce?
Get a voodoo book and you read it, and then you practice a lot.
Where does one get a voodoo book?
At Voodoo Books R Us.
.com? Oh no, back then you went to the actual retail brick and mortar
Yeah,
store.
it was brick and mortar, man. And there's still a brick and mortar down there in Port Arthur, Natchez, Texas.
All right. Well, there's that. So you did a little studying.
That's actually a real place too. Well, it's actually Port Arthur and then Port Natchez Groves, but they're kind of one and the same, interchangeable. And they do have a voodoo shop there.
Old Papa got a few shots at Bret Hart when Bret became the WWF champion in October, including the very rare November 92 Saturday night's main event on Fox. He's going to lose cleanly to the sharpshooter, of course. And then when Nails is fired in December of 92, which is a whole nother story, Shango is put into the emergency replacement spot for all of Nails' house shows against The Undertaker. It's interesting to see, man. It's almost like you guys don't really have anything super exciting or fun creatively for him. But, hey, we know in a pinch, if Bret needs an opponent for Fox, Shango will get over. Hey, man, Nails is out. He's supposed to be taking on The Undertaker. Who can we count on to have a good match with Taker? Well, Papa Shango can do it. That's quite a vote.
Shango was a star.
It's quite a vote of confidence for a relatively new performer, is it not?
Yeah, he was a star. He was a star and was portrayed as one, and I think people accepted him in that role.
It starts to peter out after that, unfortunately. He only lasts about 30 seconds in the 93 Royal Rumble match. He comes in at number 3. He's injured, so I guess that's the reason he's not in there very long, but it starts to feel like he's losing steam to the point of losing the El Matador in the dark match of WrestleMania 9. And he's not doing much on TV besides one-off matches with the likes of Typhoon, Kamala, or Jim Duggan. But he does get a run with the USWA title again through the crossover era of the spring in 93 and I guess the summer in 93 too. He beats Lawler on May 3rd, loses it to Owen Hart on June 21st, and he's a member of the roster through October of 93. His final matches are on the WWF Tour of Israel and Europe that month. And then it feels like, well, he's not long for this world. Did you ever push for anything with Shango in 93, or was the bloom off the rose at that point?
I think the bloom was off the rose, and, it was a good example of a character that needed to be put on the shelf for a while. That to try and keep that character sustained and the believability of that character, it was fun in a time where those characters were just more acceptable. But to try and sustain that for any length of time, I don't think it was really sustainable.